vlog. Okay, here goes nothing. Jill and I have a very big announcement. We are starting our own clothing brand. Welcome to Briar Road. Honestly, even just saying that was terrifying. Not because I don't believe in what we're doing or because we're not excited about what we're doing, but because for the last year and a half, we have been keeping this really close to the chest and have literally not really told anyone that we're doing this. I think we just told a few friends and our mom a couple weeks ago. So this is the first time we are talking about it publicly. Before we get too far in, I'm going to take you through my makeup routine while we're talking. I've already done my skincare routine and my base routine, which is usually this Laura Mercier primer and this e.l.f. Power Grip primer, which is really great if you need long lasting and for your makeup to stick all day. Also, still obsessed with the List Beauty foundation stick. That's what I have on currently. So we're gonna get into the brand and I guess my makeup routine. So Briar Road, we have been working on this brand since spring of 2023. For the record, it's 2025. So we've been in the works on this for some time already. I don't know why I'm so nervous to talk about this. I think for the longest time, it was just something that Jill and I have been working on privately, and putting it out into the world now means we are opening ourselves up for criticism, so that makes me like really nervous. Obviously also really excited because that means we're taking steps forward. So I'm just starting with my Tarte contour stick. So we've been secretly working on this for a while now. And the brand is a clothing brand that really falls into kind of that lifestyle genre. We were really inspired by dark academia, vintage inspired casual wear. You're gonna see a lot of like heritage, preppy American classics, that kind of thing. The brand itself is really an extension of Jill and I and who we have grown to be. I'm sure many of you are wondering how this came to be, which is kind of a long story. So back in early spring 2023, I was laid off from my job. The experience of that was really actually traumatic. The way that our founders of the company that I was at handled the situation was really messed up, really traumatizing to everyone involved. There was just layer after layer of lies. I have gone back and forth on like how much I want to talk about this because one, I'm just really not interested in bashing anyone. I think for the most part we've moved on. And two, I really don't want that to be my story, but it's really hard to tell this story without providing that kind of context because that is what really led us to where we are now. So yeah, 2023, laid off from my job, as was everyone in the company. It got really, really messy. Honestly, the effects of that layoff bled into every aspect of my life and Jill's life. It wasn't just a work situation, it really bled into our personal lives because of who these people were. They weren't just my bosses and coworkers. They were friends of many, many years, considered them family. I'm not gonna go into too much detail on that because a lot of that has to do with Jill, and if she wants to tell that part of the story, I will let her. But just know it was traumatizing and honestly really hurtful, and it took a long time for us to get over it. At the time that we were all laid off from this company, it was a really terrible time in the job market. I think I counted at one point, and that same week, 25 of my friends and acquaintances, like within my gym and work community, were also laid off and unemployed. So it was a really crazy time. Everyone was out of work. It was a really difficult time for me personally because for so long I had put all of my self-worth into kind of this work life that I had. Without my career, I really didn't know who I was. I have always kind of just put work first before everything else. So I really struggled with that for a while. There was a time where I was depressed and really just not feeling like myself anymore. I felt kind of worthless. I had a lot of great friends who sort of stood by us during this time, but I also had a lot of friends who just really felt like we had abandoned them, which I do get, because during all of this, Jill and I really kind of took a step back and disappeared from being social, doing the things that we want to do. One of the good things that came out of this whole crazy situation that we went through was that we really had to step back and decide what we wanted to do with our lives, because we both realized at this point that we were not happy in LA anymore and that we wanted more out of life. So even though everything felt like it was kind of falling apart at that point, it was really a turning point for us. We sat down and we're like, what is it that we want out of life? And after a lot of just kind of reflection and talking through everything, we both kind of realized there was two things that we wanted to kind of go after. One, we wanted to travel more, which now I'm unemployed, Jill's a nurse, how are we gonna make that happen? One thing Jill had always talked about wanting to try was travel nursing. So for anyone new here, Jill is now currently a travel nurse, and every 3 or 4 months we move to a new location. Currently we are in Sacramento. Previously we were in Massachusetts, and we leave in a month to go to the next location, and we don't know where that's going to be yet. The other thing that we both realized we really wanted was to start our own clothing brand. That was the scary one, because I have started a business before, so in terms of like the logistics and admin of starting a business, I sort of knew what I was getting into. And for anyone who doesn't know, I did go to fashion school, but I did not study manufacturing. So for the last year and a half, Jill and I have spent all our time just like learning the ins and outs of manufacturing and design and anything that we don't know, so that we're prepared once we get to that stage. So now we had two goals: travel nursing and starting a brand. This is again back in spring of 2023. The first move for travel nursing didn't happen until summer of 2024, so a full year later. There was just a lot of things that Jill needed to do in order to move into travel nursing, paperwork and licensing and all that kind of thing. And then on top of that, we had to get rid of our apartment, move everything into storage. All that stuff just kind of takes time and preparation. So August of 2024, a year later, we finally moved to our first travel nursing location in Plymouth, Massachusetts. At this point, we had already developed kind of the brand aesthetic, the soul of the brand. That came really easy. It was really just an extension of who we were as people. So that was not difficult. We really had that down within the first couple of months of deciding we wanted to start a brand. What took a lot longer was deciding on a name. So now we are in August of 2024 and we still have not landed on a name. This process took us quite a bit of time. So what we ended up doing was just writing out lists and lists of words that we liked and just doing all kinds of combinations and phrases and lyrics and quotes and poems and writing these all out in lists and combining them in different ways. Sometimes we'd come up with something we like and then we'd sit with it for a couple of weeks, and our kind of rule of thumb was if we found ourselves making excuses for the meaning or the reasoning, we had to nix it because we really didn't want to second guess. So it wasn't until we were a couple of months into living in Massachusetts where we were finally able to land on something. I think it was just really being inspired by the location. We really felt once we got to Massachusetts that like this was kind of where we were meant to be. The New England area in general we were really inspired by, and I had come up with a few variations of the brand name and had Jill go through and was like, which one of these stands out to you? And we both selected the same one, Briar Road. So that is how we landed on the name Briar Road. Like I said, the brand is really inspired by this like dark academic aesthetic. Jill and I love books. We grew up reading. We were really shy kids, so we always had our noses in books. Both avid book collectors. Our storage unit is clothes and books. That's like all we have. We have hundreds and hundreds of books in storage right now. So the brand itself kind of lends to that dark academic, like heritage brand. You're gonna see a lot of like classic styles. a lot of layering elements, but still affordable. We want to make sure that we're still offering pieces that are affordable to everyday people. The other thing that we will be doing is tapping heavily into the book talk culture. That's just natural to us. I'm obsessed with book talk, so that's our niche. Those are our customers, those are our people. So that brings us to fall 2024. We finally started working on our branding because we couldn't work on branding when we didn't have a name. So that's really when the jump start of everything started. We brought in this amazing artist. Her name is Tuesday. She is the best. Shout out to Tuesday. I actually worked with her at my previous company, so I know she is one of the best. Everything she's designed from previous projects we've worked on, I've been obsessed with. So I just knew going into building this brand that we wanted to bring her on to do our artwork and our graphics and our branding. So that has been in the works for the last few months. We're really taking our time with everything. The one thing we don't want is to rush just because we want to put something out. We want the quality to be good, the storytelling to be good. We really want everything that we're putting out there to be high quality. So across everything from the branding to the product to the marketing, we're taking our time with it to make sure that we get it right, because this is now our baby. So, what you can expect for the future. We are very much focusing on just brand awareness and building our community. I would say that Jill and I are largely unknown. We're not like huge influencers or anyone with huge followings to kind of like rely on for launch. So because our first products are not actually launching until later on in the year, we're really going to focus the next few months on just brand awareness, getting the brand out there, building our community, which you'll see on socials, which you'll see in our book club. So really follow along on socials. We're going to be doing a lot of behind the scenes on building a brand. There's a lot to learn, and I thought it would be fun to take you guys along with as we make progress on the brand, show you behind the scenes of everything publicly. That's kind of what the plan is moving forward, while behind the scenes we are still building our products. I should say creating, not building. The other thing you can kind of come to expect is I'm obviously more camera facing than Jill is. You will see her in the vlogs as you have, and on social media. She has no problem doing that kind of thing, but speaking to the camera like I'm doing is just something that she is not comfortable with yet. Maybe that will change down the road as she gets more comfortable, but for now I will be more camera facing than she is, but she is here working every day back behind the scenes. She also still works night shifts at the hospital, so she is doing both at the moment. She's always been very into fashion. That's not like a leap for her, but learning how to do all of these things alongside me is a lot and a huge undertaking when you already have a full-time, high-demanding nursing job. And I'm sure there's people out there that are gonna be like, oh, you have no experience. Why are you starting a clothing brand? And to that I say, who gives a fuck? People are allowed to change their minds and to start something new, to start over. You don't have to be trapped into one thing your whole life. That is normal human nature to change your mind. I'm using this palette, by the way. I think that as long as people do the work to educate themselves on the process and to learn the industry and kind of really just dive headfirst into it, there is nothing wrong with starting over. In fact, I highly encourage it. You can start over at any point in life if you find yourself not liking the path you're on, not liking the box you've put yourself into, not liking the life you're leading, or just not being satisfied. Try something new. If you don't like it, change it. There's nothing wrong with that. I realize that this brand is not going to be for everyone. There are people who are going to think it's stupid. There are people who are going to root for us to fail. There are people who are not going to like what we put out, and that's fine. To that I say, this brand isn't for you. But it will be for someone, and we will find our people. So back to kind of what you can expect in the near future. Right now, we are in the manufacturing stage, lining up our first couple of drops. which will be later in this year. And whenever we have the opportunity, we will take you along and show you like the process and the things that we've learned and some challenges that we will face. Jill is a travel nurse, so we don't have a home base. Something like a warehouse and a 3PL is not something you do, in my opinion, at this stage. When your quantities are not going to be very high, you do not need to be putting money into a warehouse and things like that. Usually, I think that the smaller brands, the smaller startups will do that work themselves, either out of an office or out of a home. We don't have either. The logistics of how that's going to work will be interesting. I think we're going to have to get creative. And obviously at some point, yes, we are going to have to settle down and pick a place and settle down and build from one location. When that time comes, we'll know. I don't think we have to worry about that yet. Some other challenges that we face are we are fully self-funding this. We have no funding, no outside partners. This is just Jill and I right now working on this ourselves. In terms of a timeline, for the next few months, as I mentioned, we are really focusing on our social media and brand awareness, building our community, and then our first launch. We are hoping for a spring-summer timeline. That said, who knows if that'll happen. We are just aiming for later this year for the first one, and then subsequent drops following that. We already have those kind of in the works. We are excited to get that show on the road, but all of that does take time. So, also disclaimer, these are not the products we are launching with. These are just really early samples we had made mostly for content purposes, since we wanted to start building out our social media quite early prior to our first drop launch. We had just some fun pieces made so that we could shoot with and stuff, but not the actual product. The actual product that we're launching with, you won't see for a couple months yet. I have to say, it is a really scary thing, putting yourself out there, creating something that you really believe in, but maybe other people just don't understand or don't like. Jill and I are both really excited about this brand and what we are creating. It's a lot easier when it's something you can just work on privately without having outside judgments or outside influences, but I guess that is life. There's really no way around that, unfortunately. So there you have it. To recap, Jill and I are starting a brand, and if you want to follow along with us on social media at Briar Road Studio, on TikTok and Instagram, and for any YouTube updates, they will be coming from my personal page for now, likely built in with my current videos. But once we start to get into the more exciting things like the photo shoots and behind the scenes, the manufacturing and things like that, we'll definitely have more dedicated videos to the brand. So follow on, and we hope you like it.